and we're doing the vibe check and manifestation reading for the month for the earth signs. Right, we've got two sets of cards, the angel tarot ones and then the I Ching ones, right? So we'll go through these and then we'll go through these and it'll be a 6-card spread, okay? So I'm just going to shuffle these and then we'll go into it. Whilst I'm shuffling, I can tell you about the things that we have on offer. So we've got one-on-one readings that you can ask specific questions about. They're 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and an hour. And then we've got ones that are full ones for the whole year in terms of seeing what you can manifest and vibe check and all that stuff. They can be on anything from love, romance, and career, work, family, and abundance. And obviously, I don't give legal, financial, medical advice. Speak to a professional where you need a professional. And yeah, you take what resonates and leave what doesn't. This is a collective reading, so it's for everyone who's a Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn, or who has that in their charts quite strongly, or a 2nd house, 6th house, 10th house placements. It could be your ascendant, your sun, moon, personal planets like Mercury, Venus, and Mars as well, and will be quite affected by these. Right, so gonna do my little shuffle, and if you don't want like the one-on-one readings, you can get the you can just be a monthly Patreon subscriber, and you can get a buffet of all the types of readings. They're like 20-minute ones for the collective for the month, and then like ones on manifestation and abundance, ones on love and relationships, and and then for the other ones, is there anyone? Or you can get the one-off ones if you don't want to pay a monthly one. On Gumroad. So all the stuff, all the links are in the description below, or on my about page for whichever platform I am streaming on right now. Okay. So yeah. Right. Let's pick the 3 cards. First one is the Empress. This has come up already today. It's on one. Okay. So the second one is the Knight of Cups, which is Knight of Raphael on this deck. And then the third one is the 2 of Gabriel. Okay, cool. And, okay, let me just run through them for you, and then I'll explain. So the first one is the Empress. This is about, it's an incubation period. Time to act upon your plans. Creativity is rewarded, luxurious and abundant resources. So when it's upside down like this is what you're working on. You're trying to incubate and learn and search and adapt information, but you haven't been able to before about the specific thing that you're trying to manifest. And because this is a major arcana, this is more about your destiny. So this is like it's a theme going on in your life that you don't really have a day-to-day say on. Like it's happening regardless. You know what I mean? Knight of Raphael is about like going the distance as far as like relationships concerned, committed relationships, being swept off your feet, situations and topics that make your heart flutter. So this is about like having a struggle with that, if that makes sense at the moment. So they're both in a struggle phase. They're kind of both blocked. And then what you're trying to do is putting the energy of putting things together. For some of you guys, this will be to do with learning and searching and adapting a relationship that already occurs or a connection that already exists. This is about bringing you two together. I don't feel that this has anything to do with your material or your work life or abundance in that kind of financial kind of way. I just feel like this is more to do with relationships. So yeah, it feels like either you're in one relationship and you're trying to bring yourselves together, or you're wanting those kind of things, if that makes sense. Now Now, what kind of relationship? Is it romantic? Is it work-based or social? That kind of thing is dependent. But it just feels like this is very much more a relationship-based kind of thing. This is about your social or your personal. Your for very few of you, like about 10% or something, would be like family. But for about 80+%, it's more romance, potentially love kind of thing. So yeah, it does feel like, because I put them up there by accident, feels like it's moving up in terms of like grades of like importance to you, and we're gonna see how the other person feels and everything soon enough. I'm just gonna get the I Ching ones out now. Try and like do this in a quick enough time. Okay. So we've got 25 over the Empress. And 25 is the highest good. It means like it's a new beginning, but you're trying to energize, reinvigorate or start like a new energy on this. And it is the passion and it is the kind of thing. But it's also sustaining the passion because it's a 2, and then it's like it's creating a flow of it so that it's consistent and generating that and knowing how to generate that. So you're learning how to with this person. So you're exploring that connection in that kind of way. And then it adds up to a balancing. So it feels like this person throws you off balance every time they're around you. And it just feels like they make you want more, but at the same time, that makes you have to kind of emotionally self-regulate a bit more than you want to kind of thing. So you're figuring that out. Okay, so the second card to be picked is 15, okay? This person makes you feel a lot. So you do feel kind of tied to them in a kind of like very earthly, like physical sense. you want them. So it's kind of like, it's very physical. With the scarecrow kind of thing about this card, it really does make you feel like you're trying to take away any of your fears that you might have around this area of your life. You might have fears around being hurt if you do get physical with this person, or every time you do get physical, there's like a fear element of like, this person sees too much of me. For some reason, it does feel like things just fall into your lap with this person, so it just feels like the connection just vibes. It's quick, it's easy. There's a lot of fire, and there's, just feel like you see each other, like you really like see into each other, I guess is the best way to describe it. This has a long-term potential, but you do have to kind of like, because the Nine of Cups, when it's like this, is like there's someone who's like labelless, like they don't tell you what they want from the thing. And so they kind of like, they do the ghosting, they disappear every now and again, they come back out of the blue like it's casual, like it's just like, even if it's not a casual connection, like it's not seen as like casual sex or anything, it's kind of just, there's no consistency. Okay, I have to go, guys, but I'll get back to you on this one, okay? Hi guys, how can I help? Yep, okay, let me just get some cards for you. Okay. Let me just get some cards for work. Do you have a specific question about work, or just anything about work? Okay, no, I feel like you're in a good position. Like, you moved into something new that was worth it for you, and it does feel like, you know, you'll be able to put it together in a way that, like, in terms of the amount of energy you put into it, will be worth it. And you'll get, like, it's slow, consistent growth. So at first, it's just, like, seeing where it goes. You're trying to protect your energy because you don't want to be used up at work like you were before, if that makes sense. And it does feel like, you know, it feels like before you kind of gave them the roadmap to success where it comes to, like, making something tangible and, you know, Okay, so where before you gave them a lot of like opportunities to succeed by the kind of work that you were doing as tangible outcomes. Like, you were very good at like giving them resources basically that they could use, if that makes sense. And you were because you were resourceful, I feel like there was some jealousy to do with that, if that makes sense. There was jealousy around that, if that makes sense. Yeah, so, you know, it feels like that's why you're tired, but also you want to give to the new place in a way that's like, you're tired of being in situations where people use the competition and the jealousy to then, like, separate you from the rest of the group and ostracize you, if that makes sense. So in the new place, you want to make sure that you are, you know, you're working with the team and they're seeing, but you're putting in little effort, if that makes sense. Like, you're giving them your bare minimum for now just to see how much you can, like, not be used, if that makes sense. And then because you're quite a natural, like, overgiver, if that makes sense. So you're trying to make sure that you give a little now, and then you see if they are going to get greedy and mean or bitchy or anything like that. And then as you develop, you know that you can give very generously, and you try and make sure that you're not overused later. So that's the key bit, is like, start as you mean to go on. Don't overgive from the get-go, if that makes sense, because it's your kind of like nature to not try and impress, but just try not to disappoint, if that makes sense. You stay and worry. So. Yeah. It's going to be a new kind of vibe. It's not going to be as bad. You're going to be able to, like, obviously you're going to figure out, like, whether, because you're stressing now because you're trying to figure out, should I put in that much energy into this in the first place? And you're stressing out as much as you can to try and figure out how to be adaptable to this situation, if that makes sense. But realistically, you can explore the connection. You don't have to worry about the heartbreak from the past, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? It just feels like you're able to kind of like protect your energy, still do your own thing and be yourself. Obviously, you've got serious subject matter expertise to kind of showcase, but, you know, it won't stop you from having new opportunities or do anything good, if that makes sense. It feels like you will be celebrated there, you know what I mean? And, you know, you kind of have to get out of your own head, if that makes sense, because it feels like it's like creating a mental prison for yourself unnecessarily. But yeah, it feels like you know, whenever you feel like you need to take a step back just to observe it, like, practically, so that you can see that, you know, you know how to master this situation, and you've learned from your past, you've become, like, very, like, skilled at adapting to the situation, and you know from experience, and your long-term experience in the past, that this is, like, you're in a safe space, because the behavior they're giving you is quite, like, they will be giving you will be one of appreciation and positivity, rather than, like, competition, jealousy, and, like, negativity, basically, if that makes sense. You won't be too pushy, so just trust that, like, you know, when you need to ask for, like, a reference or a piece of information, at this point, you'll have, like, the like the right luck on your side. It feels like the person will be patient with you and just kind of give it to you. And plus, you're not testing the person too much, if that makes sense, if you ask for me at the moment. So yeah, just trust it and just like go with it, if that makes sense. It won't be as bad as before, you know. So yeah. You have a bit of fun here. It feels like there's some play, there's some collaborative energy. You know, at first things will go slow because you're trying to figure out like what's the best way to be successful as often as possible and maintain the relationships I have, because you're kind of scared of the jealousy, right? So you don't want to move too fast, and that's why, because you're just kind of stuck in the past mentally about like how this is, and you're trying to make sure that this situation's upgraded from the past. But it does feel like, even though you struggle to see at the time the opportunities in front of you, because of your like trapping yourself in a negative mindset kind of thing, you will relate to them a lot. You'll be very compassionate with your co-workers. They'll really look to you as someone who knows a lot, but is also very warm and like empathic and things like that, emotionally intelligent. So you'll be in a very collaborative environment where you can have fun and still make stuff happen, you know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, this one, you'll have, like, the ability to be creative, have fun, not in a kind of lady who leisures kind of way, but more in a kind of, things can be fast-moving, but you know how to move them in a very adaptable way. You learn a lot, you play a lot, you have fun, you bring people with you, if that makes sense, in your successes, so it's good. Oh, yeah, for sure, we can do a general reading. Let me just get the cards here. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll do one card for each area of your life and see how they balance out. And then if you have any specific questions, just ask me and then I shall go into it, basically. Okay. Okay. All right, okay. Okay. Right. I mean, it feels like right now you've got like a new freshness of thinking, like the new way of thinking. You are worried about your finances, if that makes sense, in terms of it being you. So that bit you're learning to overcome. And then, hold on. Oh, okay. It's dealt with slowly, like in terms of whether it's paying stuff back or having to worry about long-term investment of your abundance, if that makes sense. It does feel like it balances out. You will get the resources you need to pull that off, if that makes sense. So yeah, I mean, it does feel like over your long term, like it does balance it out. Does it make sense? It feels like for some reason there's a 3 months gap between this that actually gets it resolved. So, that'll be fine. It just feels like you just have to be consistent. This is all about maintenance and consistency and sustaining it. So it does feel like you're able to do that. Okay, so, right. So in terms of communication, it feels like there's an element in your social circle, whether it's like, when you have a small social circle or like people I don't feel like it's your neighbors, but it feels like more people you're in the communication with over the phone rather than email for some reason. It feels like you're kind of having to be more generous and like you extending a hand rather than it being like the other way around. And it feels like that way you're able to problem solve for others. It feels like this does come back to you in the end in a positive way. Because right now it feels like you're... you don't feel like opportunities are being thrown at you outside of work, if that makes sense. It just feels like it's kind of, there's a lot of... Go on. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it does feel like initially... It feels like you do. There's an element of like problems having to be resolved first before you feel like you're able to like pay for things to go when you're going outside, if that makes sense. So it feels like through like having your finances balance out, it feels like you're able to socialize more. And then... Yeah. Yeah, you don't have the time, you're just working all the time. So, yeah, I mean, it feels like once that the money starts balancing out, it feels like you're able to socialize. It just feels like... It feels like things just work out better, if that makes sense. It feels like people are more adaptable to you as well. It feels like they try and make more time for you. So I know you don't like asking for stuff from people, if that makes sense, but it just feels like they make more of a time to socialize with you. So it feels like... Not that you need it to happen this way, just because they work around your schedule, then you actually get more social time, if that makes sense. So that's pretty good. And then, yeah, that means that that will change the way that you socialize on a day-to-day basis with people. It feels like they come to meet you in like local places that are very easy to get to, if that makes sense, or places that are easy to get to from wherever you are, so that you just kind of like have a very, even if it's like a friendship of convenience kind of thing, it's still worth it that way, if that makes sense. So yeah, then that will make you feel less like you are left out in the cold. Yeah, so it just feels like, let's see. It feels like the career ends up balancing out the finances, and then... Yeah, it just feels like around like a bigger social network, it just feels like the next year or two is where that is more likely to change, if that makes sense. And then it feels like it's like your social network, like it's like a small group of friends builds another group of friends, and then that's how you end up building a network of people to both socialize with in a fun way, but also potentially like help each other with, if that makes sense. Like it feels like that's when you have a network of support for yourself, if that makes sense, because it feels like you don't really have, like, even if you have family and relationships that do care, if that makes sense, they don't, you're the provider, emotionally speaking. Yeah. I mean, you're trying to get to a point where you can manage your time better. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's especially with it's about structuring it so that, like, I know this sounds awful on some level, but like you're having to be more of an authority figure, if that makes sense. So sometimes being an authority figure isn't really like telling people off. It's going, this is my boundary, and if they cross it, then I just won't show up for the thing. Not in a mean way, just kind of like when you say no, you mean no, so you don't have to shout it, you don't have to like say mean things. You just kind of like don't show up, or you don't pick up the phone, that kind of thing, if that makes sense. You just become a wall, you know what I mean? And sometimes doing it that way is the easiest way, especially with people who are used to taking advantage of you and not respecting your authority and your time and your space. That's the easiest way to break it. But it takes about a year for it to be a permanent thing, like, because you're breaking like a lifetime of habit, if that makes sense. So if you do it that way, you get more time for yourself the way you want to make time for yourself, instead of like, because I'm not even stating your family, if that makes sense, because it makes sense for them to want to spend that much time with you, but them doing it so suddenly and like in a way that doesn't respect your energy, and like maybe you're feeling too exhausted, you've run down, you know what I mean, you've gone to the nth mile to do whatever you got to do professionally, and then your family just kind of waltzing in and expecting stuff from you, if that makes sense, isn't like respectful. So yeah, I mean, if you just kind of, as and when you actually need it, like, if obviously, because otherwise you feel like you're pushing them too far, if that makes sense. But it's not just that you don't need to like worry about taking them for granted. They'll understand that they have access to you in the future. Does that make sense? It's just they're used to just overriding. Yeah. It does feel like you're able to go abroad, and it does feel like you do get that. You do also have to like draw your boundaries there where you feel like it's necessary. So you do have that opportunity to go. But if and when you feel like your time isn't being respected, it is better to say and then stick to it, because it's kind of like you have to be firm and resolute. Does that make sense? So yeah. Yeah. No. Hi, yeah. So it's not about saying no to, like, if you're needed as a carer or someone who is providing a quality care for someone, it's about saying no to certain things, if that makes sense. So, where, say for example, it might be too exhausting for certain tasks, if that makes sense. It's about making that clear at that time, because you tend to kind of overburden yourself to the point where you damage your own physical health, if that makes sense. So when you're finding that on the holiday, then try and be nice to yourself then, and don't do the self-sacrifice thing unnecessarily. So like, obviously care for the other person, but when you need a break, tell them you need a break, if that makes sense. And be patient with each other, if that makes sense, and then you'll get through it much better. And because of that, you won't lose your patience and then, snap in any kind of way. Not that you really snap in a mean way, but just in a kind of like, you want to kind of ease the tension. Of course, yeah, the job will bring you more money, so yeah. Yeah. But make sure you spend your time wisely, so that you're kind of like not spending the money too much, if that makes sense, and you can actually save it. Yeah, pace yourself, definitely. Yeah, so respect your time and space, and you'll get a lot more out of this year, okay? That's okay. Is there any other questions or anything you want to ask? I would say... So yeah, because... Yeah, your obstacles tend to be to do with communicating what your energy levels are doing, and like your time and your financial situation. Okay, so that's the thing to keep track of. That's the last message. Okay. Have a nice one. Take care, okay? Cheers, bye. Okay, that is the end of that reading, and I shall have this of you and leave you guys. Bye. Enjoy. Oh, come on.